Welcome everybody to this week's Azure and AI show. Um, Speaking this evening is Tiago Costa. Welcome to Tiago, and congratulations on your recent 20,000 hits on LinkedIn, Tiago. And we have had Holster there in the US. Hal has recently become 31 years of being an MVP. Congratulations again, Hal. 31 years. Wow. And we have Julio with us as well. Um, so, Tiago, do you want to share your screen there with us?
Yeah, sure. Let's just take care of that. I think this is the one I want to share.
Yeah,
There you go.
I have it there now. Yep, there we can see it.
Okay. Should I start?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, so I'd just like to welcome, everyone, to the Azure and AI show today. My name is Tiago, and my goal for today is kind of bring you, from an app that I'm building. Let's imagine, okay, in this hypothetical scenario, and I'm going to publish this into a repository all the way, okay, to bring it and just to put it in production and of course hosted it in Azure App Services. Okay, so the thing is, not don't think about, oh, let's just do this in the fastest possible way. That's not what we want to do today. What I want today is think about this in the most secure way, repeatable way, and be production ready. Okay, so we're going to talk about things like bicep, that yeah, it could also be terraform. If you're on the terraform side of things, that's fine too. Okay. um, we're also going to lock down secrets with managed identities and key vault. And we're going to finish with like a zero downtime blue green rollout, and kind of explaining a little bit, what we want to do with that. So just doing, a short presentation about myself. But like I said, my name is Tiago. I mainly work as a cloud and AI architecture and advisor, and I'm actually based in Lisbon, Portugal. I've been working with Azure since 2010, so really, really a very long time ago. And basically, I've been also on the community side an Azure MVP for 11 years. Okay, not 31 like Hall, but I'm still 20 years away from reaching from reaching that. So still a long way to go. And I'm also basically a GitHub instructor, Microsoft certified trainer, also an MCT community lead. So a lot of awards that I've been collecting along the years, and I also one of the leaders of the Azure and AI user group, and also a member of the Global Azure board that we organize Global Azure all across the world to more than 100 locations. And we're pretty excited also to bring the 2027 event. We already have all the alignment done for that. It should be released pretty soon. So also watch out for that space. Just a little bit about personally about myself. I love to travel. I've been in 78 different countries. Very soon this will become 80. Okay, so I still need just one more week of work, and then I'm out for a week, and I'll be able to travel to two really cool countries that I've never been. So I will increase that number to 80 countries. Okay, not that I'm counting. No, of course not. Okay, cool. So let's talk a little bit about what we're going to cover today. So we're going to cover app service fundamentals. Just to clean up the room. If you're new to Azure App Services, hey, this is going to be important for you. Then deployment, CI/CD. Then we're going to go deeper into app services and talk about topics like scaling, availability, network, identity, and let's not forget costs and governance. Okay, because oh yeah, we have this amazing service. Yay, but how much does it cost? how can I control the cost so that costs, will not explode? And 1 month, the bill comes and you're like, oh wow, hey, what went wrong here? Okay, no, we do not want that to happen. Okay, for sure, we need to keep that under control. Okay, so that's where I said, this needs to be something that needs to be production ready. Okay, so let's go. Let's talk a little bit about app service, fundamentals that we have here. So app service is a fully managed platform that we use to build, host, and scale HTTP based applications. Okay. It's a PaaS service. So Azure takes care of patching the operating system, the runtimes. Um, there are several instances supporting this, aka virtual machines in the back. But what about load balancing that? Well, again, Azure just takes care of all of that. We don't have to worry, about that. And this is a first class citizen when it comes to host web applications, REST APIs on this. We have things like custom domains. We have things like free managed certificates so that we can do HTTPS on this. And there is global reach. It's actually available everywhere. When I say everywhere, means every Azure region has and supports, okay, Azure App Services and supports Azure App Services with deployment slots, with VNet integrations, with hybrid connections, okay? Basically, in every single region, we basically have all of that. There's some core building blocks when it comes to Azure App Services, okay? And I kind of, try to simplify this here a little bit, but there's the compute. The compute is what we call the Azure App Service Plan. This is what sets the price, sets the features that we're going to get, sets the instance size that you're going to get, sets the number, okay, of instances, so the count that you're going to get. And then, in that app service plan, I'm going to be able to basically add a bunch of different web apps inside that app service plan. And if I go to a dedicated plan that we're going to talk about what that's it in a moment, what's going to happen is, well, that means that you're going to get, basically any number of web applications that you can get there. Of course, there's not a physical limit, like a hard limit from Microsoft. There are some recommendations, okay, on the number that you can host there. But in the end, it all comes to the load that those applications will have. I have app service plans that have really a large number of web applications there. I have other app service plans that have one single application, okay? And that's it, just one app. Because, that app actually has a lot of traffic on it, okay? Then there's the placement, also the third part here, which is for sure thing, the app service plan is also going to limit, hey, where do I want to put my app service plan? AKA, in which region I want this. And what is the best region for you to host app service plans? Well, it's basically the region that can serve your customers in the closest possible way when it comes to latency. Okay, if for example, I'm very connected and I have like a lot of, let's just imagine, customers, most of my customers are in the UK. Well, maybe, choosing a region in the UK will be the smartest choice. If, you have lots of customers in the United States and, your audience is like 90 something percent a US based audience, well, then somewhere, okay, in the US will be the smartest possible way. And, you get the idea. I talked about runtimes. So what do we support when it comes to runtimes? Well, we support a bunch of runtimes, .NET, Python, Node.js, Java, PHP, etc. Actually, for .NET, I actually need to update this. I forgot to update this. This actually goes to .NET 10, of course, okay? Not just 8, but 10 and so on. That we have this. And it supports apps like in Blazor, MVC, web APIs, okay? All of that. Same stuff for like Python and Node.js, okay? Java, PHP, and more, okay? Then also those hosting, machines that we have in the back, we can actually choose them if we want Windows or if we want Linux. For me, this is the same platform, just two different operating systems. And usually, modern runtimes, if we go to things like custom containers, they're usually cheaper to run them in Linux. Got it? So that's where most of the times, I'm going nowadays. Even the other day, saying this, just this week, I'm actually modernizing, basically a solution for an app for an organization, and they actually have a .NET version, a .NET application. It's Web Forms for people that know what Web Forms is and what it stands for. And it's a very, very old web form technology. So even before, we had .NET Core and things like that. So for sure, that comes with a limitation is that, well, I cannot run that on Linux. It's Windows only. So for sure thing, I actually needed to select Windows only for that app service plan because actually it doesn't run on Linux. We also have the other way around, which is some runtimes are not available in Windows, mainly Python, for example, PHP, just two examples. But it's not that technically they will not work in Windows. I actually was just building here an app before I joined the call in Python. Okay. And my machine is a Windows machine. You're going to see it in a moment when I do a demo. And I was doing that and I have Python installed on my machine. The thing is, the app service team decided not to support Python on Windows. So they only support it on Linux. So sometimes you have these decisions that have been made for you, so you don't even need to choose them because if you want to run a Python app, it needs to be Linux, period. Okay, so there's nothing for you to choose. Then let's talk a little bit about the app service plan. There are actually different tiers when it comes to your app service plan. And for this, we have things like free, share it, that, to be totally honest with you, don't use it, okay? Only if you actually want to try the service for the first time, etc. But I have zero things, even for development, running on free and share it. And why is this? Well, because there's a machine somewhere and that machine is going to be shared. So your web application is going to be there. My web application can also be in the same web app, and we're all going to be neighbors of each other. So it's not very good when it comes to isolation of the application and things like this. It might be, it might have some issues with that. So I really don't advise you, okay, to do that. But look, it's great. It's basically free. One of them, the other one, you pay like $8, €8
Hello.
around that. So that can actually be okay. So sorry. So that could
No.
be something that could be interesting. Okay. But still, I don't use it. Okay. So you have basic, you have standard. So you start here, where you have dedicated compute. So with this dedicated compute, this is actually where you're going to get, a lot of, amazing features that comes with like custom domains, auto scaling, deployment slots. Okay, that we're going to talk about some of those, and you get some very cool ones. Nevertheless, this is very based in really, really old hardware. So you should go and see if you can go to premium because sometimes you might say, woo, premium, expensive. Well, in app services, not so much. There's actually premium tiers and sizes in premium, like a P0 V4, a P0 V3. That's actually sometimes they're actually cheaper to run than a standard tier, okay, that you have because this is based on new hardware, and so Microsoft could be, can actually launch this at a much much better, pricing tier when it comes to this. So we have faster CPUs, like I say here. Okay, we actually have more memory. Okay, zone redundancy, VNet integration, and we can actually go, up to 30. It's actually not slots. Okay, sorry about that. 30 instances. Okay. So we can actually grow this to 30 instances. Of course, you pay per instance. Okay, so just be careful with that. They're still isolated. Isolated, they come with lots of cool features. One of them is like, for example, instances. Okay, this can actually go right now to 200 instances, which is like, wow, really large. But the biggest advantage is that you're actually going to run this inside the VNet. So it's not VNet integration because that's something else. No, this I'm creating a virtual network and I'm putting my instances inside a subnet in that virtual network. So complete isolation. If I want, I can put that this app cannot connect to the internet. This app cannot be reached from the internet, only from that VNet. And it's like the complete isolation. So if you work with industries like financial services and so on, that they're very peaky when it comes to isolation of the services hosted in the cloud, this might be a great service for you. Okay, but let's change the screen here, and actually let's see a little bit here. Okay, our Azure portal. And now that I see this, I think I'm wrong. I'm in the wrong screen. Let me just share this again. Okay. So entire screen, and I want to share this because now you're seeing the Azure portal, and now you're seeing this. Okay, yes, there you go. That's it. So I already had loaded here the Azure portal, okay? And if I want to create, like for example, a web app, this is how you create a web application and you create the app service plan at the same time. And look, there's tons of options in here. But, first you select, of course, the subscription, in which resource group you want to put this. I'll just randomly selected one there. Then instance details, you just need to put here, hey, my app will be called demo. And this will just say, oh no, this is actually not available, because someone already called it demo. Oh, okay, so let's just put some random numbers on this because this needs to be unique. Then what do you want to publish? If you want to publish a Docker container or compatible Docker container or just code, then runtime if you go code. And like I said, there is support for .NET, Java, Node, PHP, Python. So basically all the runtimes that we have here. Let's go with .NET 10. Because .NET 10, I actually have options. See, I can select this from Linux or Windows. If you go back and I select, for example, PHP, see, now there is no option, right? Basically, we have Windows disabled over there. So only Linux is basically the only selected option. If I go Python, same stuff. If I go, for example, for ASP48, it's just the opposite because this is only Windows. Okay, so basically what I was telling you before. So let's go with .NET 10, and actually let's go with Linux, and then the region. Where do I want to create things? And let's just say, in my case, I will go for West Europe today. Then, we have our pricing plan here. So this is where we're going to create our app service plan. And this is where, you can just select one of the available pricing plans here. You can even click on this link, explore pricing plans. And I can actually see a bunch more pricing plans available in here. And look, we have really loads and loads and loads of them. They're loading here. So right now, Premium, this is the latest version of Premium. It's called Premium V4. And for example, we have this one, P0 V4. And if you select this, you can see that, for example, this will cost me like, let's just say $76. So it's not that expensive for a full month running this, 76 bucks. And I can run, lots of different web applications on it. So it's not just this is not the price per web app. No, this is the price per app service plan. Okay, so I could go for this. You could go, from any other ones that you have here. There's loads of them and you should, look at them. For example, see what I told you about the standard. Standard, you only have those three, but they are already marked as legacy. Okay, and we all know look, I'm starting a new project. Do you actually want to start something that is marked as legacy? Yeah, probably not the smartest idea, right? Okay, so let's go. I'll select this P0V4. And then, there's a bunch of other options that I have here that I'm not going to cover them today. But, you can actually integrate the deployment right away. You can, do some configurations in terms of networking, under monitoring, etc. But to be totally honest with you, I just show you this because this is pretty cool to show you. But I don't want to be doing this manually because this is what I personally call click ops. And I'm like totally against it. Okay. So that's why, I just want to very, very quickly talk a little bit about the possibilities for deployment on this. Because the Azure portal, look, it's great for me to show on a demo so that you guys can learn the possibilities and all that. If I do stuff like one time, sure, yeah, I can still do it via the Azure portal. I don't see any harm on that. But the problem is, if you want to keep doing this in a constant way, look, definitely it's not the best way, okay? If I want to leave something so that my customers can just click on a push of a button and boom, they can actually redeploy everything that I did, that's not the best way for me to do it, correct? So that's why, we have several deployment options here. And of course, I can take a web app, have it on my machine here. I can basically do a zip deployment, which is basically just zip the app, upload it, and the app will show in app services. Okay. And hey, happy days and, fun stuff. But that's not what I want. I actually want to actually have my code under source control, mainly on, GitHub, Bitbucket, Azure repos, okay, you name it, okay? Those are just some examples of possibilities. It doesn't need to be one of those. And then, through pipelines, through GitHub Actions, Azure DevOps, I can actually build a YAML pipeline and have that YAML pipeline to basically fully deploy my app. And when I say fully deploy my app, I can actually have a first deployment that actually even deploys the infrastructure and then deploys my app, okay? Or just the app because the infrastructure is already there. Then there's some questions over there, but we're not going to cover those today. And that's actually what I'm going to show you just right now. I already have, and you can actually grab this. This is a public repository that I have here. Okay, I'll share this in a moment. Okay, and what I have here, and let me just go under actions, okay, very, very quickly. And I have this action that just says, basically deploy to Azure. And I'm just going to start running, okay, just start running this because this takes a while, okay? And so what I'm doing with this is going to validate my code base. It's going to basically build my web application that I have here. And then because I selected dev, there was a combo box. I don't know if you guys noticed that. It's going to deploy to development, okay? Same template can also deploy to production. So with this in mind, let's go here on code. Let's just leave that open in that tab. And let's see if that works, because I didn't test it, okay? But let's just see if it works. So this is my web application that I have here. If I go source, you will see, look, this is a standard .NET 10 application. Okay, I'm not going to show you the app. It's just a standard app. There is not that much to see here. It's an app that just says kind of yellow, okay? Doesn't do that much more than that. Then, if we go under the .github folder and under workflows, I have the YAML file. This is the one that I'm actually, doing. And if you see here, I have a job that just says validate, okay, and then basically does all this, basically builds the app, does some tests on the app. I have another step that is called build, and this is what you see here, validate, build. And then I have this one called deploy, okay, to development, which is this one that we have here. And if we look at, I'll zoom on this. We download the build artifacts from the previous steps. We log in into Azure. We create a resource group. We deploy a bicep template. Okay, and there's actually a bicep template, Tiago. Yes, there's a bicep template. Okay, which is this bicep template that I have here. We'll show it later. Okay, then you publish the app. So you deploy the web app into this. You get the service URL on this, and then you just basically show this. This is now, it's the deploy to prod, okay? That we actually are not running it right now. If you go to the bicep file, so the bicep file is here too, and basically deploys, a web application, an app service plan, some diagnostical settings that I want to have. It's basically what it's doing, okay? So if we look at this, this is actually deploying, okay, the app. This takes a while, okay? It's normal that that's going to take a while, but still, we might already see some stuff in here. I think this is called RG, yeah, ECS Dev 2. So you can actually see that I already have app service plan deployed here. I already have my web app deployed here, okay? But for example, if I load my app and I browse my app, still nothing here yet, okay? Which is normal because this is still running, okay? And because this is still running, it will take a while, okay, to get there something. Now, you might ask yourselves, whoa, Tiago, but that's a lot of work that you did to create all that repository with all that stuff, right? Well, to be totally transparent with you, yeah, it was just a bunch of prompts because I kind of vibe coded, that stuff, okay? So I just sat down, an afternoon here, hey, I do some demos. I really want to have, a repository like this, and I want to have this. I want a bicep file. Hey, now I want to create a GitHub action for this, and with a little bit of help with GitHub Copilot, yeah, some my work too. Also validating everything, etc. for sure, but also with some code here and there for me. I just build this. Okay, so it's actually not that big of a deal, to build all that bicep file. And if you don't know bicep, Terraform, this could be Terraform, okay? It's irrelevant if it's a bicep of Terraform. What I want to see is this. You should have, something that is not ClickOps. You need to have your app. You need to have a pipeline that captures, your app and is constantly, deploying your application if you do some changes on your app. And I use GitHub Actions. If you're in the Azure DevOps team, just do it with Azure DevOps. Is pretty much the same thing, but in Azure DevOps, it's YAML still, okay? The YAML is slightly different, okay? It's not called a runner, it's called an agent, but even the names are pretty much similar to that. But in the end, it's pretty much kind of the same stuff, okay? So by the way, this looks like got deployed. You see, there's a green thing in here. It took 3 minutes and each, so 3 minutes and 40 seconds total time for this. And what we got is that if I browse now this, okay, there you go. I have this amazing app. Okay, it just matches my t-shirt today. Okay, so basically we have this app. Okay, it doesn't do that much. Okay, to be totally honest with you guys, but it's just to show and to prove a point that very quickly I can just build something that out of the blue, I get a web app deployed on an app service plan, and just something that is just there. Okay, so with this in mind, let's talk about what other cool stuff can I do, because now I have this app. And what about, Tiago, if I do some changes on the, on the source code. I'll tweak something there. I want to deploy those changes. Well, you don't want to deploy straight into production. At least I hope that you do not want that. Okay. And if you want to do that, just lie to me and say, no, Tiago, I never do that. Okay. So that I can sleep at night. So that, we have a very cool thing here called deployment slots. And deployment slots are, at least for me, one of the single biggest wins for safe releases in app services. What you're going to do is you're going to deploy your new build to a staging slot while production keeps serving the traffic. Okay? Because if you're going to deploy this straight, okay, into production, well, there's a downtime. Got it? So even if you have a monolithical application, you can still use app services and deployment slots and still have a zero downtime deployment. Because what I'm doing is I'm deploying this into a staging slot. Then you can, warm up the instances so that health checks pass before real traffic hits it. You can do some tests on it to see, oh yeah, no, it's responding as I wish, it's doing what I wish. Okay, and then you can swap traffic instantly, and basically your old build or your old production still stays there if for some reason you still need to roll back. Because even if your tests have passed, everything went just fine, but there's still something, that still didn't work as expected, that you only notice after the traffic is there. You can always roll back because that environment is still there, okay? So we have this, and this is actually quite cool. And now you might say, wow, Tiago, but that should be like super hard, to create, and super hard to create, a deployment slot. So yes, it is super hard. And that's why I'm going to show you. So learn with this, okay? So on your app service, and I'm doing a little bit of ClickOps, but of course, look, you could do the same with, automations and Bicep, etc. So I'm in my web app, and in my web app under deployment, and if you go under deployment, there is deployment slots. And, it just tells me, oh, no, you don't have any deployment slot. Yeah, okay, I want to create a deployment slot. So, as you can imagine, it's really hard. So pay attention, okay? Add slot. And now you need to give it a name, okay? And I'll call it STG from staging. Get the idea? That's it. There is some clone settings. If you want to clone the current settings, you can, or you don't, you just say no. This will bring all the environmental variables with you. I'm just saying no. And I'm just going to press add, and that's it. This is how I have created, okay, this, basically this, this new deployment slot. And of course, now, when you're deploying, you need to target your deployment where? Well, into the staging, in this case, deployment slot, and of course not the production deployment slot. And later on, you can test this because this one, the staging one, actually comes with its own URL. And if you can actually go and check this out here. When it loads, and because I'm doing a demo, it's taking more to load, but you get the point. Well, this is, let me just grab this. This is the URL that I have for my production one, okay? And if you look at the other one, it just added this dash STG. STG was the name of the deployment slot, so dash the name that you gave to the deployment slot, okay? So it has its own URL that you can handle, okay? So and now, you can actually go under settings, environmental variables, have your own environmental variables for this with different values. Look, all this is possible now, but depends on the use case and what you want to do with this. Okay, so there's tons of possibilities. Okay, so let's go back to our web app here. Okay, and let's actually see what we have more to talk about, because now I want to cover a little bit about scaling, performance, and availability. So when it comes to scaling, so like I said, we can scale this to multiple instances. Okay, and there's actually several options for that. You can scale, vertical. Okay, do a vertical scaling, which is scaling vertically. It's basically moving to a bigger tier. So we can actually take that out of the way here and just check that out here. So if you go under, app service plan, you can just say, hey, scale up. So up, vertical. And, it will show the P0 V4 or V3. I think this is a V3 that we have here. Yeah, because the bicep one, it's creating a V3. And, I could just say, no, I want a P1 V3. So, I get more CPU, more RAM, okay? And you just hit select here and it's done. I'm not going to do that, but it's basically just that. And you're going to get more capacity. Sometimes we need that. But most of the times, what we're going to have is the need to add more instances behind the load balancer. And that can be done manually. And you can just, there's a slider, I want 10 instances, 3 instances, 4 instances. And, you do that manually. Or, you want to do that based on rules. Rules, because sometimes we want to do is, hey, I'm getting more traffic. So if I'm getting more traffic, I need more capacity in terms of compute that, it can handle all the load that I'm getting into it. Sometimes you even know, okay, so it's called what we call predictable load. You know that you're going to get more. So I can give you an example. I have a customer that, based on their business model, they know that every Friday and every Saturday, late afternoon until like 11 p.m., they need to have more instances than what they usually have during the rest of the week. So we know, and we just basically scale that, okay, before the traffic comes. Okay? Sometimes you don't. And, it's what we call unpredictable load. It's like very stable, and then, it's growing, and then out of the blue, it also drops a lot. So when it drops, I want to release instances. When traffic starts to spike, I want to add instances, okay? So with this, there's actually several options, to do this. There's like scale out. This is horizontal scaling, so out to more instances, but also scaling in to less instances, okay? And you can see here that, look, my current plan is this. I have one instance currently available in here. And if you want, you can actually scale manually, okay? And this is the slider that I was talking about. I can go up to 30 instances. I'm at 1. I could just say, hey, I want 2 instances, press that save button, boom, a few seconds later, like literally just a few seconds later, I have 2 instances for me, okay? That's cool, but to be honest, I'm not going to be here dealing with, more traffic. Let me move the slider, right? Come on, right? It's like, we're not doing that. We want automation to do that. So there's actually automatic, okay? That is a platform managed scale. So the platform takes care of it for you. Or you can do rule-based, okay, traffic, which, in this case, you select rule-based, then you click configure, And now you're going to be redirected for something that I call the worst UI ever, okay? And you're going to notice why. You just say custom auto scaling, and now you want to add a rule. So here you need to say, I want this based on a metric. So I need to select this little bit in here. And now to add a rule, look at this. To add a rule, there's actually a link in the middle of this tooltip. Got it? You don't even imagine, well, you probably imagine the number of customers that, yeah, where is this? I can't find it, okay? And when I told them, well, it's in the middle of the text, they were like, really? I was like, yeah, really. So let's click add a rule. And in this part here to add a rule, look, there's a lot of stuff here. I'll just call out two things or three things. This is the metric that I'm taking care now because in this hypothetical scenario here, my app consumes CPU faster than anything else, okay? So that's the metric that I care. You could care, depending on the app, for memory. There are apps that, they spend memory first than CPU. So you need to monitor more closely memory, not so much CPU. So there is memory percentage, okay? But let's go with CPU. And then I have here, well, if this is greater than 70%, okay, I could just say, let's just change so that we just change something, okay? 75%, and then there is an action. And the action is increasing the instance count by 1. And during the next 5 minutes, I will not care about, growing this more. It's what we call the cooldown period, okay? Because the cooldown period is needed so that during 5 minutes there is no more instances coming and coming and coming and coming, because that's what's going to happen if you don't have a cooldown period, okay? So let's do add, and there you go, I have this rule. Now, be careful. Many customers have done this mistake, some my customers, okay? But many, many other customers that are not my customers, okay? Which is, they have done this, they basically go to instance limits. They say, well, at least I always want 1, max I want 10, and default, let's just leave it at 1. If you do this, and you just press save there on the top, this one day grows to, let's just say, 5 instances, then you don't have more traffic, so the traffic actually drops a lot, and you still get 5 instances. So the instances are not dropping. Because for instances to drop, you actually need to add another rule. And this rule, again, CPU percentage. Now I'm going to say, if this is less than, 35%, again, this is app dependent, 75 or 35. Those are not standards by any mean, okay? And I'm doing this, and now I'm doing what? A decrease, okay, the count by 1. Add. So now, see, I have a scale out rule, but I also have a scale in rule. Get the point? So I can scale out to more instances, but when traffic drops, there's no need to have 5 or 6 instances. I can, start to drop the number of instances, saving money. Correct? So there you go. So you can save this, and now this is going to save all the settings into my app service plan. Again, I'm doing this via the portal so that I could show you the options. You should do all of this, okay, via Bicep, via automation. You can even get the JSON, okay, and there's like all the JSON of all the rules that I have defined is here. And you can just take this, and if you want, you can basically just apply this via script, via JSON, etc. Also important is the run history. I don't have anything here, but in a real app, this will tell you when the app, grows and, number of instances and when it drops, and you can start to see some patterns. Got it? So it's important for you to monitor this a little bit closer from time to time. Got it? So those are just some options, that I have here. There's another option here that I really want to call out, which is zone redundancy. And when you have app service plans that are going to have more than one instance, you can start to leverage availability zones. Okay, so availability zones, it's basically when a region supports availability zones, means that there are 3 zones, and each zone is composed by one or more data centers, but each zone is totally independent from the other zones when it comes to power, cooling, and networking. Got it? So that means if there's an issue in power in one of the availability zones of West Europe, only the data centers that are in that availability zone are going to be, affected by that outage. All the other ones are still running. So what this means, if I select this in my web apps, means that my instances are going to be basically spread across different zones. So one instance goes to zone 1, another instance goes to zone 2, then to zone 3, then to zone 1, 2, 3. So it will start to balance this. If there's an issue, only a partial number of instances are going to be affected. Got it? So be careful with that. And this is actually something that doesn't cost you money. So you should be, you should be using this. Now, talking about availability. So there's always this, we have 99.995 effective SLA. Well, but then depends on the dependencies that you have, because, each dependency that you add, it gets to lower, got it, your, basically your effective SLA. So the other day I had actually had to respond to, kind of was a public competition, and they actually had a target of an SLA of 99.99. Okay, and I still, that's just not possible because, it's no service has that. And they were like, oh no, but AWS has this service, which is similar to this, okay? That they say it's 99.99. Well, yeah, but you have 5, dependencies. And if you have 5 dependencies, and that's why I actually created this slide to put in my presentations, you're going to end up with 99.75, which is the same here. So, there's no reason to, just say we don't want Azure just because of that, because over there it's going to be the same thing. They reach out to AWS, and AWS tells them, yeah, that's for the service, it's not for the app. Okay, and then they were honest too, as they are always, So be careful with this. Okay, if we're talking about this, we're talking about like almost 2 hours of downtime in a month, with zone redundancy and etc. It's backed by 99.99, but which is not 95, but we still have, every dependency that we add is going to affect this. Okay, so just be careful. Okay, still be careful with that. Okay, and I don't know about you, but having 108 minutes of downtime in a system for my customers is a nightmare. Okay, we're not saying that this doesn't happen every month. Of course not. Most months doesn't happen. We have 100% availability of the app, but still it might happen. Okay, and this is just an SLA, nothing more. It's not a guarantee. Got it? Then let's just talk a little bit about something that is actually pretty cool, which is networking, security, identity. And just to close up, okay, just to close up here the speech today, just to talk about this. We want, app services to be private by default and also secretless by design. And they are, but you need to implement it, because if you don't, they're not. Okay. So the first that I have to talk about here is VNet integration. So you can actually route the outbound traffic through a virtual network. And imagine, this. I have my app service here. Okay, so this is my app service. And on the right here, I have on-prem. And on-prem, imagine you have a database. Okay, and sorry, I'm doing this with my mouse, okay, today. So sorry about that. And I have my database here. So if you try to get directly there, well, there's no way because there's a firewall on-prem that will never allow you to just connect to the database as you wish. That will never happen anywhere. So we can have a VNet in Azure, okay, here. And this VNet already has some kind of, private connection with your on-prem system. And, usually through a VPN, through something like Express Route, look, you name it, there's already something set up. VNet integration allows you to route the traffic, okay, through a VNet so that, yes, you can actually grab data from a database or, an API that you have still on-prem, you still didn't migrate this into the cloud, whatever, and you can actually grab stuff in here. It's actually quite cool. You can also do access restrictions and, you can just block the traffic to a specific range of IPs and only those can actually get into your app service. Your app service still has a fully qualified, public domain name, but you're going to restrict the traffic only from, some allowed ranges of IPs or specific IP addresses. I can do private endpoints. I can give the app a private IP in a VNet if you have like an infrastructure as a service, like a VM running something and needs to grab something from an API that you're hosting in app services. Hey, you can get through that private IP. And there's actually another thing called managed identities that this is actually, like super, super cool. And actually, let's do a demo exactly on that, okay? So if we go to our app, we can see that we have this demo, value that just says, oh, development environment, deployed via Bicep. Okay. So if I go to my app and I go to settings and I go to environmental variables, okay, you can actually see here this environmental variable that I added called demo value. And if we go here, you can see, oh yeah, that's the one that you have there. Look, I could change this here, okay, to like A, okay, and apply. This is going to take a while, okay, to actually change, okay. So it's probably not going to be reflected right here, okay. I'll do a Control F5 even to refresh this, but it's normal. This caches this value also on the browser, etc. I'm only going to try to do like in private browser, but still, I also have an internet concentrator here at home, and this will not load. It was not going to change. But if you're the first time accessing this, that value is already there, okay? But okay, I needed to go instance of this app by instance and change it. So maybe, and this is my last demo, okay? What I could do is actually grab this from a key vault and manage this as a secret, okay, under key vault, okay? So for that, let's go under key vaults. I already have a key vault somewhere in here. And where is that? Yeah, we can use this one here, okay? And I could go to secrets, okay? And under secrets, I'll just say demo secret, okay? And I'm just going to put here a lot of, elements of the letter B, like B, 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 whatever. Okay, there you go. Now I can actually go to this demo secret. Where is demo secret? Demo secret here. And what I want to do is I want through RBAC, role-based access control, allow this web app to access that. So for that, I need to go to identity and I need to enable, okay, the system assigned managed identity, which I already did through the bicep file. Okay, so I already have an object principal in here. And if you go back here, I go access control, and I'm going to say add a role assignment, like you're doing this as standard any other R box. It's no different than anything else. Okay. Um, and I have a secret reader. So key vault, it's showing everything. So key vault secret user. Sorry, it's a secret user. That's a role that has the permission, okay, basically for me to, to read secrets. And I'm doing this for this app. So see, you have to select your managed identity, and then where is your managed identity? And oh, it's an app service. It will show up there, and you do this, and then you just review and assign, okay? And now what you have to do is this amazing thing. I'll show you here. Azure Key Vault Reference. And if you search for this, there's actually this amazing article on Learn that if you scroll down has a table, okay, with the stuff that you need to put there. So you need to go under environmental variables, demo value, and here, instead of putting A, you delete, and you put this. But of course, now we need to change this, okay? To change this, let's go back in here. Let's find the secret identifier that we have here. We copy this, and now we're going to put this in here. And we're going to remove this. It's kind of a GUID, okay? Because we don't want this to go to a specific version of our, okay, of our secret, okay? And now I'm going to basically click apply, but look at this row here, demo value. Currently is saying app service because the value was directly in app service. And if I'm doing this now, it should show key vault. See? Key vault. And it's showing a green check. That means that the authentication actually happened. So this means that this is actually reading the value from the key vault. Now, if you want, you could go to the key vault and, you could, you basically could do that. I'm trying to pull reference values here so that I can force this. And if I search this now, if I refresh this, see, now this changes like this immediately. Cool? Yeah. So this is actually a super cool feature. My God, there is so many more cool features like this. Maybe we could do like a V2, like a session 2, an episode 2 of this, of a bunch more cool stuff. Okay, that we have in with Azure App Service and the possibilities. Okay, that we have with Azure App Services. But now, I really just want to, close up. With some key takeaways and some conclusions, okay? Which is, I think it's obvious you guys saw this. This simplifies a lot, bringing an app into production. I still have customers, oh no, let's create a VM. And then they have to deal with all the infrastructure stuff with a VM. Sometimes I have to do that. It's my job. Even the other day, I had to do this, and I was like, my God, I feel like a caveman, like eating rocks to try to put some fire on. It's how I feel when I have to do that. Because with this, it's so much easier, so much faster to do stuff. And, then you can focus on actually building things that will move the business up and not taking time to do stuff that it's just not the best idea because you're taking so much time to do something so basic. Okay, picking the right plan because tiers drive the cost. So of course we would want to have the highest tier with lots of gigs of RAM, but do you actually need it? You need to make that questions. Okay, do you need the features? Because sometimes you don't. Okay, secretless and private by default, so managed identities, key vault references, that's what I showed you. Okay, private endpoint, I told you about what it is, but I didn't have time to show you. Slots make releases, super boring, and we want them to be boring. Get the point? I have really large deployments at customers that they don't fail for more than 2 years now. Like not even a glitch. Get the point? We got to that point. It takes a while for you to get there. Okay? And it's boring because it's never fails and we don't have to anything to do. Yeah, but that's awesome. I love it. So that's the way to do it. And also something that we didn't talk about, but it's important is have monitoring, okay, on this from day one, because when things don't work, you need monitoring data so that you can dig and you understand why things are not working. And Azure Monitor, logs, metrics, application insights are great things for you to add up on this. So to close up, codify everything in Bicep, Terraform, what your poison is, okay? So that environment is reproducible, okay? Right size the plan because tier drives costs, scale, network options. Go secretless with managed identity, key vault references, use slots so that releases and rollbacks become boring, okay? And basically that's it, okay? So I really, really hope that you enjoyed, okay, this session about app services, that you learn a little bit more. If you have any questions, just reach out, and I'm always happy to answer, some questions from the audience. I kind of live for it, so don't feel shy. Okay, if you have any any questions, and don't forget to follow me. Okay, you can go to follow.tiagocosta.com and you can find all the social networks. I promise that I even on TikTok I do not dance. Okay, so if you want, just drop a follow. I'll be delighted so that I can share my knowledge with more people and more people. Okay.
That was fantastic.
I don't know if you guys have any question for me. Frank?
No, great presentation and demo. Everything worked out perfect. Dan, any questions?
Yeah, Tiago, I loved the demos of the dev slots and the switching from dev to production. Do you have any tips for finding examples of that out in the wild?
Well, actually, I have a course releasing that actually has exactly that. Okay, so it's from Microsoft Press. It's the AI 200, the exam prep for AI 200. I actually have exactly a demo on that, but it's actually something that I'm also going to launch on my for free, by the way. Okay, in my case, in my platform. Okay, I want to launch an app service like course, so like a full app services, just on app services, and it's like one of the demos is going to be this. It needs to be this. Okay, so yeah. So keep an eye on that. It's Learn with Tiago. Learn.tiagocosta.com. Sorry about the advertisement. Okay.
No, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Great job. You need a Surface though for your mouse versus finger or stylus.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I was doing an exam yesterday, a Microsoft exam. So I moved from this desk, the Surface, to the other desk, and I have.
I figured you had.
I'm looking at it, but it's so far away. I had to take it and just then use the whiteboard. But definitely, I do that, or even an iPad. If you have an iPad, with the Microsoft whiteboard, I usually use that a lot. Works flawless, to be honest. That's where I always do my drawings.
Yeah. My
Okay.
fiance uses a Samsung Note for the same exact reason, being able to scribble
Yeah.
notes and arrows and all sorts of stuff on the screen of a phone. So there's
Yeah,
plenty
it works,
of things
right?
besides Surface, but it's super handy when you're trying to draw.
Yeah, I have to have an iPad Pro because it doesn't matter.
That's what I'm on today.
And
There's
to
either
be
that or
honest,
Surface.
yeah, to be honest, is actually great. It just
Yeah.
works. Yeah. It may cause drift by modifying something on a portal. Yes, definitely. That's
Yeah.
one of the reasons why we do not want and we do not like, the concept of ClickOps. Okay, it's called configuration drift. Even okay, that's the technical name that we call it. Okay, which is we start with one configuration, everything is fine. Then we have a different configuration and things are not fine anymore. Okay, and then trying to find what has changed without source control, not impossible for sure, okay? But it takes a lot more effort, okay? And sometimes when I see things that, oh, this doesn't work anymore, what's the problem? Source control, what did we commit it in this pull request that it's leading to this? Oh yeah, someone uploaded a change in the configuration in the bicep or in the Terraform. It's very easy to catch. If it's in the Azure portal, sure, there are logs, activity logs, etc., but it's much harder to catch what were those changes, okay? So definitely, okay? And that's why we hate ClickOps. Repeat after me. We hate ClickOps, okay?
It's good for learning. I'll give it that.
Definitely. And for doing a quick demo,
Oh,
like
yeah.
for example, what I did now, etc. Look, it is awesome. Okay. And for people understanding the possibilities, the potential of the service, for learning, you just want to learn something. Look, it is really good. Yeah.
Okay, very good. So we're over the hour, so I'm just going to end the live stream. And thanks everyone for joining Tiago. Tiago will be back again in 2 weeks' time with something to do with apps in Foundry, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah, looking forward to that one. So
Cool.
thanks very
That'll be
much.
fun. Thank you, everyone.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tiago.